call order, or can you change it down after the public hearing?
I think once you open the public hearing, you can make the motion to, have someone make the motion to amend the agenda and move new business.
Take that up as.
Jason.
And then announcements, I'm just gonna let everybody know, we're hoping to get everybody these two conditional uses if they were recommended approval on the agenda. We had placeholder, let's go ahead and resolution. I'm gonna make the announcement for 317.
Okay.
Okay, we'll call the regularly scheduled Longmeadow Planning Commission regular meeting of February 27, 2025 to order. So we got announcements from staff.
Jason, are we recording?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right, thanks.
So announcements, they've kind of changed up from what's actually in the agenda. Unfortunately, the appointment of the planning commissioner for Commissioner Winnick's position has been held off until this next meeting on 3/3. So I had a reminder of election of officers that may, at the behest of the chair and other members, hold off until the March meeting if they're for the appointment of the next planning commissioner for the full term, whether it's Commissioner Winnick or whomever the council may choose. And then I believe that the other issue, we had hoped to have the conditional use permits, if they were approved tonight, go on the 3/3 agenda. Due to the short turnaround, those conditional uses, if recommended for approval, will be held until the 3/17 city council meeting. And that is all the announcements.
Very good, very good. Well, unless there's objection, we do have two commissioners that are absent this evening, and they did let us know that they were not going to be in attendance. So I have no issue continuing on with the postponement of election officers, so as long as there's nothing, any objection here. So we will continue to postpone it. So our first action this evening is the approval of minutes for the January 23, 2025 meeting. They were in your packets. Is there any comments or changes necessary for those minutes? Seeing none, Chairman will take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and second, we'll act now on the approval of the minutes of the January 23, 2025 meeting. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. The motion carries for approval of the minutes. I do not have any public comments on non-agenda items. I do see some people coming in and a few visitors, and thank you for attending. But I do not have any comments on non-agenda items. So we will open the public hearing. So what the chair requests is that just a matter of protocol here. We need to move item number 1 under new business, which is the conditional use for U-Store conditional use permit, to our first item of action, and then we'll hear the old business. And the reason for that is that my purpose is to desire to hear the any comments and or action on conditional use first. You okay with that?
Yeah. Just for the public and the commissioners, I apologize. We're having some AV issues on the TVs behind us and to your left, and if you're in the audience, I will try to switch it around so you have to crane a little bit to the right to see the maps as they go out. So I apologize for the mishap.
Very good. One thing you can be assured of, if it's anything to do with the computers, is that there'll be an issue at some point in time. Thank you. So the chair needs to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to reorder new business for item number 1 first, and then we'll hear the old business for item number 1.
Mr. Commissioner, I move to suspend the rules to consider conditional use 25-1 at the first of the orders of business before site plan 24-6.
Very good. Here, second.
Second.
Thank you. Hearing a first and second on the amended agenda for this evening. All those for say yes.
Yes.
All those no's, same sign. So we have an amended agenda. Now we'll hear on new business the conditional use for U-Store it. Conditional use 25-1 for U-Store conditional use permit to allow mini storage modification in C3 zoning district that abuts the residential zone.
So commissioners, what you have here is the youth store it. If you remember, the first expansion, phase one, had the additional buildings around the larger, what was the old grocery store, and that came in 2019. What they are proposing now, well, we'll get to that in the site plan, but the conditional use is needed, going back in history, in 2019, when the first phase was done, the property adjacent to it, what we call the Pfeiffer property, Villages of Monmel, was zoned, I believe C2 or C3, so it was a commercial zoning, no issues there. 2021, I believe it was in April, the Planning Commission and then the City Council approved a rezoning of the Pfeiffer property from the commercial to a PRD. As such, the mini storage became a legal non-conforming use, and due to our ordinance, a mini storage in a C3 that abuts a residential zoning district requires a conditional use permit. With that said, the staff has reviewed it. We have no additional conditions to add on it other than just to allow mini storage expansion in a C3 district. And that is our comments, and we recommend a due pass to the City Council contingent on further staff, commissioner, and city engineer comments.
Thank you, Jason.
So we're getting a little bit of I would say this is semantics, but just a little bit of protocol with this client that was here, or with this applicant that was here last month. He's here in the audience as well too, and he was kind enough to work with us so we get this cleaned up for him. So is there any questions or comments?
And as a point of clarification, this is a recommendation to
Yes.
City Council when you make your motion?
Yes. So if not, the chairman would entertain a motion, and in that motion, as Mr. Grimmer stated, it's a due pass to City Council.
If I may, I move a due pass recommendation to the City Council of conditional use 25-1 use store conditional use permit, contingent upon further staff, staff, commissioner, or city engineer comments.
Thank you, sir. I hear a second.
Second.
Any further discussion on the item? Hearing first and a second, we will now act on the conditional use 25-1 for use store conditional use permit. For this is a due pass recommendation to City Council. All those for the due pass recommendation signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. The motion carries on to City Council with the due pass recommendation. Now we'll go up to old business under the same applicant for the use store to hear on the proposed site plan, the proposed landscape plan, the proposed commercial design, building design. We do have to take these each in order and each separate.
Okay, commissioners, again, this is an expansion for 3 additional storage unit buildings, roughly 16,275 square feet. We did kind of mention this in the previous meeting, that with the additional square footage, this brings the building coverage area, to 35%, which is the maximum in a C3 zone. We have reviewed it, and we have some of the issues we're making sure are drainage. We have gone out in the field, myself, Scott, Mike Hogan is our public works director, and Chuck had our city engineer, and looked at drainage, find it sufficient. Fire department, ensure a water main doesn't run under any of the proposed constructions, and if it does, the water line may need to be moved so it will not disrupt fire protection to the main building. And any coordination of a line movement would need to be made with the fire marshal's office. Our general comments on it: confirm any underground utility conflicts where building will be located, drainage report updates as needed for the property, show parking spaces to remain, include if public or for business, which they have shown on your site plan. And then we put the 94552B2 at the time, which was the non-conforming use, and that pretty much has been rectified with the conditional use approval. With that said, we have that's all of our comments on the site plan, and we recommend approval of the site plan, which stays at the commission level.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon.
And for clarification, the any motion on this would be contingent upon approval by city council of the conditional use permit.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion for approval of proposed site plan.
I'll take a shot at it.
Sure.
I move to approve the proposed site plan of site plan 24-6 use storage expansion contingent upon approval of the conditional use permit 25 city council approval of the conditional use permit 25-1 and further staff, city engineer, and commissioner comments.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing first and second, we'll now act on the proposed site plan for the STP 24-6 use store expansion. This is for approval, and it is conditioned on the item just prior for the conditional use permit of 25-1. All those in favor of the proposed site plan signify saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, the proposed site plan is approved. Now, the commission will now hear on the proposed landscape plan.
Commissioners, on the landscape plan, there is no landscaping that is shown to be removed by this expansion. We will note if landscaping is damaged or removed during the expansion, it must be replaced to city standards. And existing landscaping meets the requirements, and no additional landscaping is required at this time. And staff recommends approval of the landscape plan.
All three of values items, the one that we just approved in 2, 3, would be contingent upon the DPAS recommendation for the conditional use permit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, in commissioners making a motion would be the same as prior to the site plan. And any discussion? Chair entertain a motion.
If I may, I'll go ahead.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I move to approve the proposed landscape plan for site plan 24-6 use storage expansion and contingent upon approval of the city council approval of the conditional use permit of 25-1 and further staff, commissioner, or city engineer comments.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second. Second.
Very good. Any further discussion? These are moving pretty quick. We had heard this in the clients as we talked through, for those in attendance, we talked through this quite a bit last month, so that's why we're going through it with not much discussion tonight. So, hearing the first and second, we'll now act on the proposed landscape plan for the STP 24-6 for use storage expansion. All those in favor of approving the use storage expansion, I would say this is contingent on DPAS recommendation of the conditional use permit, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, no. The motion does carry for the approval of the proposed landscape plan. Last item on this item of business for use storage is the proposed commercial building design.
Thank you, commissioners. You'll see in your packet the designs. Our staff comments here have all been met. The new buildings on the outer edges will be bricked up or EIFS, very similar to the existing structures that were built in 2019. They have provided basically a false commercial frontage design on anything that faces commerce, so it looks very nice. And then at the request of staff, going about 3 units deep, I believe, they also used EIFS to hide the metal that'll be on the interior. That's really not going to be much in the public view shed. Those have been met, and with that, the staff recommends approval of a commercial building design, obviously contingent on the conditional use permit being approved by the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Questions, comments? Chair would entertain a motion on the proposed commercial building design.
Sure. I move to approve the proposed commercial building design of site plan 24-6 use storage expansion and contingent upon city council approval of conditional use permit 25-1 and further staff, city engineer, or commissioner comments.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rhodes. Hearing a first and a second, we'll now act on the proposed commercial building design for STP 24-6 for use storage expansion. This is it stays here, but although it is a contingent approval on a DPAS recommendation. of 25-1. So I'm just making sure that it's clear for all three of these for our applicant that's here tonight. So all those in favor of the proposed commercial building design, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. And all opposed, no. The motion does carry for the proposed commercial building design. So thank you very much. Appreciate your patience with us, Mr. Ferris. Thank you.
I can't leave without talking.
You gotta state your name. I don't know why the lectern's turned that way.
It's okay.
We'll apologize about that. I just noticed it. But you gotta state your name and address and all that if you're
Yep.
gonna speak.
Yeah, Cody Ferris, Sal and Ferris Architects, 1315 North Street in Conway. I just wanted to confirm our presence at the city council meeting. Are we required to be there? Is it something?
Yes,
Okay.
for a conditional use permit, you definitely want to be there in case the council has any questions for you.
Yep. Do you know the time by chance?
It'll be 6 o'clock on March 17th.
Got it. Thank you,
pending
guys.
weather.
Thank you. Have a good evening. We'll move on to item number 2 under the new business, which is another conditional use permit for the Stony Mountain subdivision, conditional use.
Hey, Commissioners, this is an amendment to a previously approved conditional use permit for the Stony Mountain subdivision located currently in the ETJ in the northwest corner of the city, just northwest of the city. I have added our PC report in here for you to look at with any new comments. I will say, as of 2/21, there were no new public comments. I actually had a gentleman call today, spoke with him on this project. It was more of a fact finding, finding out we were looking at, and explained it's just an amendment to the conditional use permit. And I put an email from our city attorney in front of you. The amendment is removing number 1 from the currently approved conditional use permit. And let me scroll down to it so I can see it myself, which had the condition of annexation into the city within 12 months of issuance from the permit. What has happened, there has been some holdups, not due to the property owners, but to adjacent property owner that has not had a plat file, so the connections into the property are not there in order to get construction and whatnot into there. The city attorney and staff has recommended removing number 1, that requirement, and adding a section 3 that the conditional use permit would not become valid or authorized until this property has been annexed into the city. We spoke with the applicant's representative is here, and we spoke with them earlier. They would like to get moving on this as soon as they can, and upon closing of the properties and moving on from there. With that, the staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit amendment, again, removing number 1 and adding a section 3 with the terms that are noted in the email. And this would go to city council for approval on the expected March 17th council date.
The only question I would have is the applicant fine with the amendments proposed by the city attorney?
Roy Andrews, 200 Casey Drive, Holloway Engineering. Yes, we're fine with the
Thank you, Roy.
comments.
Very good. Need a motion for the proposed conditional use permit?
I can go with that if you guys want. Conditional use permit. I move a due pass recommendation to the city council of conditional use permit 24-1 Stony Mountain subdivision conditional use permit contingent upon further staff, commissioner, and city engineer comments.
It's due pass recommendation
Due pass
to
recommendation.
city council. Okay, very good.
And-
Here a second?
And legal?
Yeah, well, he's gonna amend that. Well, he's given us this in the email. I assume he will prepare the necessary documentation, city council. Correct.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tracy. Hearing first and a second, we'll now approve on the conditional use permit for 24, well, I shouldn't say approve, we'll now act on the CUSC 24-1 Stony Mountain subdivision conditional use permit for due pass recommendation to city council. All those for signify saying yes.
Yes.
All those no signify saying. The motion passes for due pass recommendation to city council. The next item that we have is a variance request for 25-1 for Entergy for the placement of overhead power lines, placement overhead in lieu of underground in an industrial zoning district.
I guess
Y'all
I'll,
draw strong, you'll flip, or what?
I
you
guess
wanna
I'll take this one. I'll be the bad guy. I don't know. So if you recall, Entergy, is requesting above-ground, utility lines as, an extension down Lewis Nelson and across Carnahan in the industrial park, as part of their new, substation that they're building, which is in close proximity. In the packet, you've been provided the details onto the location of that, as well as there was a map that was sent out that highlighted the details on the type of poles that are used. The reason for the variance request is because, first off, city council approval is required for any above-ground utility lines that are going into the industrial park. But in top of that, the variance actually covers above-ground lines placed in a PCD, which in any commercial or residential areas, lines are required to be underground. So the section that is highlighted on the map that is zone PCD along Carnahan is they're requesting a variance to allow for above-ground lines.
So I had, thank you, Mr. Grummer. So I had Mr. Grummer's, or staff, I'm not sure who prepared this exhibit. It was under my request when I reviewed the packet, and it's before you. We had that email to us, but it's before us publicly tonight, and you can see that Mr. Lyon has that up. So the reason why I asked for this is to just get a better understanding of how much overhead's actually in the industrial area, and just to see, what has been approved previously, whether right or wrong, I'm not for sure, but that is the case. So the gray, there's not a legend on this exhibit, but that's okay. The gray is those that are familiar with their zoning, it is gray is the industrial area. So we have, there's quite a contingent of overhead power that's there. So when you see this map, that's just this little L, you can see that from a use perspective, it's been overhead power in this area for quite some time. So.
And Commissioner, sorry, I will make one correction. I didn't get the updated map. This portion right here along Carnahan that actually touches the PRD zone of CCA actually is not there. So they're not the overhead basically stops at, I think it's a Hyman, or Cogdale that goes down to the Public Works. So I apologize. This section is actually not overhead in this area. It's starting at Cogdale and then coming back towards Murphy.
Thank you for the clarification.
And of course, so the overall approval is going to be done by city council, but of course this is variance. I will state that the high school and the middle school have underground utility to their properties. The parcel on Carnahan across from the middle school is currently owned by a church with the intent to build a church. So there is some commercial encroachment into that area that would have power lines in front of it if this goes through. Now, I believe that they have received approval from the church for the easement and for the above ground line, so that has been passed on and they've been notified of that. But I just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Is there any objection or concern regarding the city-owned property in this section going overhead from a planning perspective?
Objection by staff? In my personal opinion, because of the use that is proposed or planned for that commercial section, I think it would be in the best interest of the city to have it underground versus above. Staff has no issue with overhead lines all the way up Lewis Nelson because it is primarily industrial. And as such, that's how it is around the industrial area. But in my opinion, anything that is non-industrial use should have underground utilities.
But that section is zoned industrial, is it not?
Well, on Lewis Nelson,
Flip up to the map for me, Jason.
It's actually PRD right there on that corner.
can you pull
Or
into
PPC,
it?
excuse me.
Pull it up a little bit more closer. There you go.
I see it now, it's in the tan.
Yeah, so on Lewis Nelson, half of it is in PCD, half of it is in industrial. So technically, they would be required to go underground starting about 200 feet or so from Carnahan and then following Carnahan. But because of the existing overhead that is further down Carnahan, that overhead is actually in front of industrial use. So, for what it's worth.
Point out the parcel that's.
Yeah, so, and this isn't the updated map, where he's pointing his arrow, that's actually, I'm sorry, that's, there's overhead power lines. Can you, yeah, in that blue area between the X on the right and then the driveway on the left, that's actually overhead.
Okay, so, sorry that I didn't get a hold of this, Scott, or, is this, so they're asking for a variance in the industrial zone. So this is not an industrial zone, that's PCD. Is that correct? So the variance request that's before us would not have any overhead in the PCD. They're only asking on the variance request for in the industrial zone. Did I understand the request correctly?
No, sir, the variance is for overhead in the PCD.
Phrased it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
How is that worded incorrectly on the?
It is. So then, but for both, and I know we went through this at subcommittee, it's a little confusing. So it's for both industrial and PCD. So then the industrial zoning district still has to go be approved by council as well, correct?
That's correct.
So either case, it has to be approved by council.
The council.
Or our recommendation. So I just want to make sure that my commissioners here understand what we're acting on. So the industrial, we're not acting on anything in the industrial area at all. This is specific to the PCD.
So the planning commission is making a recommendation to city council both for the new lines and as well as for the variance for it to be above ground in a PCD. So they're going to be looking at both the lines itself that are above ground in the industrial, and then they'll be looking at it whether if it's going to be above ground or underground and make that final decision. So from you, it's going to be a recommendation to city council, both are the lines justified, period, and then number two, your recommendation on the underground. Oh, I'm sorry, on the above ground in the commercial.
I guess what I'm trying to do, I don't think I'm doing a good job of getting my point across, is that, to me, when I look at this variance, is that, and that's why I specifically asked you the question, is that the PCD will be underground, industrial would be above ground.
Correct.
But that's not how they're asking for it. They would have to, the
No,
application's not that way.
no, they're asking for above ground through the entire thing. The variance that they're supposed to be asking for is to allow for above ground in a PCD zone.
So I think if you're looking at what's currently on the screen, if you start looking at roughly P12 and coming around all the way to S17, P19, that would be the actual area where the variance would be needed to allow the overhead electric, because that is where the PCD zone runs. So that's miscommunication on staff part as far as what we wrote on the summary, so I apologize on that. But the focus would be from P12 to P19 essentially, because that is what's zoned PCD.
And so are you looking at the appeal to planning commission variance request? What are you?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
I was looking at the map, and I can reference it.
It says PCD on this one.
Okay.
So I'll read from, on the appeal to the planning commission. So under the appeal section of section 86-1, no facilities including poles or wires for transmission distribution and the like shall be placed or maintained above the surface of the ground on any lot, property, or right-of-way within any area zoned residential or commercial within the city. No such facility may be erected in industrial zoned areas unless specific plans are submitted to and approved by the planning commission. So, correction on what I said earlier, you approve the above-ground lines in the industrial area. Now, for the PCD area, that one requires city council approval. Now, let me get to the code section that actually designates that, so I can make sure that I hear that right. Variances may be granted by resolution upon approval by both the planning commission and city council after notice of newspaper advertisement and public hearing before the planning commission. So it's stating that approval by both planning commission and city council on the variance for above-ground facilities in the PCD.
So if we vote the action down, if the variance is denied, they still go to city council with the industrial section?
And unfortunately, that's a question for the city attorney. It says approval by both the planning commission and the city council. What I would recommend doing is that the planning commission, you take action on both the above ground lines in the industrial, and then also take action on the variance for the above ground in the commercial. And then whichever way that goes, we'll let the city attorney address it after the meeting. Whether or not if it's
So you're asking for two actions?
well, it is two actions because you have a variation of both industrial and commercial, and we've got a variance. And how did we have it on the agenda? Just one action?
Yeah, just the variance.
Okay. So then we would need to amend the agenda to add,
You get the applicant to come up, please.
I'm Josh Tessing, Energy, 2650 Muskogee Road.
Thank you.
Kay Smith, Pinnacle Energy, 1010 Hogan, Conway.
Thank you. I think you see, I'm not, this is just a little difficult, yeah, you see where we're at with it altogether. So I want to make sure, I don't know if we can, how critical is this approval for your client?
Doing the work's critical, whether it's overhead, underground.
No. You misunderstood my question. The timing of this work.
We probably won't start till May, June, so we've got a little leeway on time.
Okay, we're gonna get this worked out a little bit. So I'm sorry for your consternation of attendance and wanting action, but I don't know, because to me, we need two different, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, and sometimes I'm an engineer, but that's beside the point. Is that if, and he's not, he has business, the city attorney had business tonight, and he talked to me about it, and I understand he has a lot too. But I'm not for sure if we don't need to act on this separately, for sure, because it's like, personally, I'm okay with it in the industrial area. If staff doesn't support it in the PCD, and you heard the reasons why, then probably, personally for me, I would not. So, I don't know. So having two different actions and recommending it separate to city council will be good, because if I was to act on this tonight, I would say no, and I'm just telling you that I would say no, but I don't necessarily have a big issue with it in that area it's industrial, just in the PCD.
Yes, sir.
Do you follow?
Total sense.
So, we would need you to defer until the next council meeting, or excuse me, the next commission meeting, if that's okay. You don't have to. We can act on this as well tonight if you want us to, but it's only one action is the way that it's read. And the city attorney may flip me on my head next month too and say, no, this is the way that has to go. And we may act on it together, that is, but to me, having two actions seems to be in your client's better interest.
I agree. I think that makes sense.
Okay. So you would need, you would need to defer it to the next regular scheduled, you need to do that as the applicant. I cannot do that for you. So you would have to tell me that's what you want to do.
When is the next one?
We always meet on the
March
fourth Thursday.
27th.
Yeah, fourth Thursday.
March
Four-
27th?
Fourth Thursday.
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
Okay, so the overhead line on Lewis Nelson,
Mhm.
that's not an issue.
Well,
Or
I'm
does it
not
have to
saying
be-
whether it's not, it is or it's not. I was just telling you personally as an example
Uh-huh.
where things, as it would be before us tonight, it's kind of a together thing. So I don't think staff prefers it being in the around the school.
Right.
In the PCD area. So, but it's together. And I think they're two separate actions, or is that what we should do as far as recommendation, so.
Because the underground has to go on Carnahan.
You can bring the map back
Yeah,
up, Jason.
so we've talked about this.
Or this, yeah, he can show you.
So our recommendation would be along Carnahan for sure, up to basically the railroad spur at least. Coming from Lewis Nelson, westward to the spur would be to have it underground, because that would be cohesive with what the middle school has as well as the high school. And that is also, of course, in the PCD zone. And then then go back above ground, which I think is what was planned on the west side of the railroad spur till you meet with the existing lines up Murphy. And then coming down Lewis Nelson would be overhead to that corner.
So then do we have to meet, does this affect the church? Because the church is right across from the city's property.
You told us at subcommittee that the church has signed your easement.
Yeah, for an overhead.
So to me, if they've signed the easement, they would concur with your proposed construction.
Okay, I just didn't know.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, okay, I just didn't want to,
Because you produced that easement document, it clearly said overhead in the language, if I remember correctly.
And just for clarification on my side, and I apologize, we should have had two items on that agenda, one that dealt with the variance itself, and then one just with the lines in general. With that being said, the concern is with putting overhead on that church property. So if you wish to press with continuing with overhead, then I would, as a recommendation, push it out another month if you want to have overhead through the entire thing. Otherwise, if you're willing to remove the variance and have it underground in the areas where it's supposed to be underground, then, I don't know, Mr. Chair, is that something that you could amend the agenda and add the review of
We're not
that?
gonna do that this evening.
Okay.
We need a little bit of guidance here, I think legally, that we're acting on these items correctly. So I just don't, when I see that, I would just rather defer in prudence for 30 days until we get such direction. It's because we've not dealt with this since, I don't ever remember dealing with this. I've been here 20 years, so I just don't recall. So that's why I was saying, right or wrong, I was not poking at you guys, but, right or wrong, because I know some of those overheads were built, well, I know all that around the school was, for sure, and the industrial that was across the street, all that's been done in the last 20 years, but that's neither here nor there. So, I guess the applicant is, did they need to defer action, Scott? Am I correct with that? The applicant?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I would ask that you would defer the variance for the next 30 days, and you're okay with that? You're shaking your head, you need to say yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
You not been to court too much, have you?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'll try to believe.
Very good. So we'll act on that at our next regular scheduled meeting. And I think that's the benefit of your client as well, too. Because if we do something and the city attorney has to unravel it, we're back here again, so.
So, Mr. Chair, since there was, Jason, there was public notice on this one? Was there was public notice on this one, so we certainly want to make sure for the record that this is what date and when this is being deferred to for public notice. The next planning commission meeting would be
Thursday, March 27th.
March 27th.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now move on to the next item of business, was SUB 25-1, which is the Newton Creek Commercial Resubmittal. Preliminary plat submittal for Newton Creek Commercial Subdivision located in Mono ETJ. And this is, we have seen this before as far as commissioners go when you take a look at it. And I believe this is a little bit of action needed to continue ongoing planning efforts and the connection, or hopeful to our new interchange that's built.
It is, anytime a preliminary plat is approved, they have, the right to extend that two times, for 1-year extensions. They requested an extension of that. I'm sorry, this is a resubmittal, not an extension, correct? Am I right? So, this was, expired preliminary plat that was approved. Previously, when it came through, the intent was to do road alignments for the purpose of showing, the state as well as the federal, highway agency that there was gonna be a connection to 365. And we lined it out on the plat where the proper alignment would be, which actually runs to the south of the property and crosses over the railroad tracks at a point to where the road would be able to come down at an at-grade connection to 365. So the only changes to the plat that from the previous approval is that the county requested that a gate be placed on the Hudman Road connection because that road connection is not that road is not to the appropriate size to handle any traffic going through there, and the county doesn't, similar to the short Marche gate that went up over there. The only reason for that connection was to show a secondary access, because there is an actual at-grade crossing to the railroad at that, on that location. So that's shown on the map, on the plat for that purpose. But the primary, once that's developed, the primary is for it to go further to the southern location and connect there, where in the future we'll apply for grants to connect over to 365 for the overpass. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Few tweaks, I should say. I said it was an extension, but we ended up tweaking it a bit. Misspoke. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
since, again, I could just be overlooking this, on the preliminary drafts, both of them, it has a date of 8/18/2022. Should that be a more current date?
It should
It's
be,
your
it
ri-
would be updated when the plat,
When
it's
we approve.
preliminary, so it's not filed,
Okay,
so it
it'll
takes
get
a little
updated
bit,
then?
a
Okay,
rough- a little bit, but we could ask them to go ahead and update it with the application. You know,
Okay.
we could, as a comment.
I prefer that.
Yes, ma'am?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is not filed.
Okay.
Any other questions? Chair to entertain a motion on the proposed preliminary plat for Newton Creek Commercial resubmittal. Oh, sir, you have a,
Yeah, I got a
I'm
letter.
sorry, I didn't see you. I apologize.
Don't know what I'm doing here.
That's okay.
I got a
We'll try to
letter.
help. I need your name and address, please, for the record.
Mark Mann, 9701 Firestone Lane,
Yes, sir.
North Little Rock.
I'm sorry, Mark, what was your last name?
Mann, M-A-N-N.
M-A-N-N.
Welcome, Mr. Mann. What we can do for you?
Y'all sent me the letter saying something about this, and what does, where my place is at, have to do with this?
So
Go ahead.
for these plats, adjacent property owners are required to be notified just per our ordinance. And that's just, again, to give you, like, you're here, so you got the letter, and it's
Yeah.
just the public comment to let you know. Other than your property abutting this property that's being platted, your property doesn't have anything.
Is that the 38 acres
Yeah,
That
so,
Can you pull a map up?
CDJ
and
had?
pull this?
or is that the other acreage that
this is the
the other man owns?
property owned by Freeman.
Yeah, can
Interstate
you
Batteries.
pull a map up with his address so you can look and see exactly where it is in relation?
'Cause I'm at the end of Firestone Lane,
You can probably point to it.
and I've done had trouble with the people that bought the property behind me.
I'm just trying to,
Circumvent.
it's so frustrating with this AV stuff, okay. Every time I do something, okay. Yeah, let me have to get over there and. So,
All right. So now where's that lane at, Jason? Right there? Yep. Okay.
yep, so, I apologize.
That's
Okay,
cool, that's cool.
Probably this,
Over here.
over the other
Just
side,
like,
you'll see it
just
all.
like my wife does.
Yeah.
All right, now,
It's recorded.
Right, now if you can, now looking at where that is, can you pull the plat back up and reference it on the plat?
Yeah.
Where the location is?
Okay, so let me, all right, so you're right, yeah, just right here, just, you're touching the property. So you're right here up on this north side, you can see this arrow area that I'm kind of highlighted. So that's where you are, you're just an abutting property owner, and by our ordinance, the applicants are required to notify you of a plat of a commercial nature.
Was this the first
So-
time that you're notified of this issue?
Kinda.
Okay. You should have been notified as well too,
Yeah.
before, when it was first applied?
Yeah, this came through 2-3 years
The people
ago.
that bought the, cabinet place, 38 acres behind me, when they bought that property, they, I guess, put mine on there, and my taxes went from 9,100 to 24,000.
Oh, wow.
And I got a letter in the mail saying if I didn't pay in a month, I was gonna lose it.
Just to make sure, we're not here to collect any tax, and nor
Oh,
will you be taxed.
That's
It's a
another
different
thing I was
office.
worried about,
That's a
you know,
different
I was like, well, we're not in Maumelle. We're in North Little Rock, basically.
Yes.
It's gonna be annexed any way you go, but it's farther on down the line with North Little Rock.
So, and I'll just clarify, this is a plat, it's not a proposal for any development or anything of that nature. So this is more of just subdividing the land, so it has, just for, alignments of roads. So there's actually no construction activity that's, unless, it's proposed to go to a final plat, but until, the development, plan comes in, then the actual roads. So there would be other plans that would come through before any actual work begins
Well, I
on
hope they bring the road down right there, 365 and Oak Grove.
it. Get a little connection and get it easier for you to get to the interstate. That'd be
Well, so
nice
we
for
ain't cut off.
you. Right,
Sure.
If there's a train wreck right there and it blocks both Marseille exits,
yeah.
we ain't got a way out because Short Marseille's got a gate on it.
So are you stating a positive, approval of like this, or are you opposed?
Yeah, you wanna bring it down by my house, you're more than welcome to.
Okay,
I'll put a little,
The applicant's representatives here will pass along your sentiment.
I'll put in a little, storage unit for all the apartments and stuff they wanna put in all this area.
okay.
No problem.
And then,
I'm retired, I got time to piddle.
And then, Mr. Mann, I would encourage you to speak with the assessor's office on your parcel then as well, if it's coded wrong.
Last 4 years I have.
Yeah, so, I would just make sure they probably need to take it back to a residential improvement. They classify the parcels differently, and it sounds like they end up classifying yours as a commercial, so,
I have no concrete on my property.
yeah, okay,
I live
so,
in a fifth wheel camper.
Okay.
And they even had that wrong, said I had a concrete pad living on a house.
okay,
Mr.
I told them
Mann,
to come find me.
yeah.
Mr. Mann, for my records, if you would mind, what was your address one more time?
9701 Firestone Lane.
Okay, great, thank you, sir.
We appreciate your attendance, Mr. Mann.
Thank y'all.
You're welcome. Okay. Yes, sir. Come on up.
My name is Michael Matheny. I'm at 6305 Oak Grove Road. Can I get some clarification on this road connection to Highway 365? The last I heard, it was gonna be a road with a gate locked.
So,
Is that what you're planning still?
so the proposal, and this is per the county, at Hudman Road, there would be a gate at Hudman Road, at where it ends right now at the terminus, going west
On
to this
365?
property. No, 365 is gonna remain open. What they're proposing here is, there's a future connection called a minor arterial that's gonna go, and it's gonna more come out right around where Trap Road is.
Okay,
And that's where the case, because that would allow an above ground crossing of the railroad without also interfering with the Oak Grove community.
and would
So-
it be open?
Yes, it would be publicly open once it's finished.
Okay,
Now, the timing of that, I'm sorry.
sir?
So now, the timing of that could be many years down the road. This is
Right.
not something that's gonna happen immediately. There's grants and other things that have to be
That's
applied
right.
for that.
Yeah.
But the plans are for that to be the connecting point. Yes, sir.
Okay, and it would be open, so traffic
Yes.
from
It'll be
365
a
could go to...
publicly dedicated right-of-way.
Yes.
Okay, thank you
Eventually.
very much.
We hope to get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your public comments. So, Seeing none or any further questions, comments for this evening on Newton Creek commercial resubmittal, we will entertain a motion to approve the proposed preliminary plat. And whoever makes the motion, Ms. Mary would request that the applicant update the date and get us all new.
And that was a comment as well, because also the chairman was wrong on it as well at this time.
Oh,
So it was an ask to update from Gershner to Johnson.
oh, okay. Oh, goodness, oh, goodness. At any rate, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
All right, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so, I'll make a motion, for approval of the Newton Creek Commercial Preliminary Plat contingent on meeting all staff and city engineer and planning commissioner comments, which is mine related to updating the preliminary plan.
Yes, ma'am. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and second, we'll now act on SUB 25-1 for Newton Creek commercial resubmittal for the proposed preliminary plat. All those in favor say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. The motion carries for approval of the proposed preliminary plat. Next item of business is STP 23-1, which is the Mid-South Boring Site Plan Extension. This is just a simple extension request. Better be careful. For the next 12 months, approved at 205 Murphy Drive.
This is for a site plan that was approved 2 years ago. This was also under the old code ordinance that allowed 2 years. And as you remember, commissioners, we voted and did a code amendment recently to change that to 1 year to realign with the plats, and also a building permit being issued versus just plans being submitted. It's at 205 Murphy Drive, and again, it's a simple extension to allow 1 year. This extension would basically put the deadline to February of 2026. Although they have some construction plans, and I believe they will be submitting plans to get this site going in the very near future. With that, the staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Chair will entertain a motion for the extension request.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to pass the extension request for STP-23-1, Mid-South Boring Site Plan Extension.
Very good, very good.
Subject to any comments from staff or engineering.
Very
Second.
good. Okay, hearing the first and second, we'll now act on the extension request for SDP 23-1 for Mid-South Boring Site Plan Extension. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed. The motion does carry for the extension request of Mid-South Boring Site Plan Extension. So we will now close the public hearing. And we have liaison reports for February 3, 2025. Mr. Ray is not with us this evening, so he misses out on his liaison report. And February 18, 2025 is Commissioner Jones. This one got rescheduled though, right?
Yes, last Monday.
Oh. But did they have it yesterday or something?
Yeah.
Monday. Oh,
Monday.
okay. I didn't know if you were able to attend since it was rescheduled or not.
I was able to attend. The only two, really just three items, planning commissioner appointment, they deferred that to the next meeting for the lack of, they have 5 candidates. Secondly, it's not really related to us, Pinnacle Signs variance request, and they set up a public hearing. Lastly, this is more of a comment, we had 25 new homes permits last month, approximately 2,500 square feet at $420,000 average.
Some pizzas or something, I don't know. Next month's city council liaisons, Commissioner Falk, she's absent due to death and family. And then, still hanging on here, Ms. Winnick, we'll see, for March the 17th, 2025. Would you like to be able to attend and give us the report, perhaps? We will see.
You will see.
Any other actions or any other commission comments or anything for this evening?
Well, I just got one. Do we by chance know if Alice may be out still next week?
Do not
I guess
know.
what I'm thinking,
Do not know.
if she's not gonna be around, and I'll fill in for her at that liaison.
Yeah, just drop her a note. I'm sure she'll
I'll
appreciate
text
that, Tracy.
If that happens, I'll shoot you a text and let you know that.
Very good.
Or,
There was, the other thing I saw, I had this on my, bar, I didn't bring it. There's a RDOT has a public meeting March 11th, is that right, Scott? Anybody else got it?
Yeah,
Yeah, so this 365 going east, I did see that, so they have widening, if there's interest anyway. It's at Cedar Creek Church, if I remember right. Cedar Heights,
Yeah.
yeah, just for instance, if somebody, I don't know what they're planning on doing, they go 4-lane, 3-lane, I don't know.
Well, that's,
The card didn't say much.
right.
That's the debate.
4:30 to 6:30 PM.
Yeah, I know
I
there's a
bel-
lot, there's a lot of properties.
I believe it's, if anything, it's meant, they're gonna put in a turning lane, if anything, minimum.
And then commissioners, if it helps, on the February 3rd meeting, I believe the only planning action was the third reading and approval of the code amendment for the storm drainage that we passed back in, I think, December. So that was the only planning action at that
They
meeting,
passed
if
it?
that helps. Yep.
How about that? Good, thank you very much, sir. Is there any other action this evening? Chair entertain motion to adjourn. If somebody would make it.
Motion to adjourn.
Here a second.
Second.
Here first, a second for adjournment. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no.